Hello! Here I have Halo Flashpoint Recon Edition, done by Mantic Games. This isn't going to be an unboxing because it's not my game. I actually borrowed this from a good friend of mine, and I have to say, I am not a big tabletop person. But I do like Halo Flashpoint, mainly because it feels like a board game more than a tabletop game. And a lot of that has to do with how simplified and streamlined it is, and that it uses a grid system. Now, the Recon Edition is kind of like a taste or a sampler. The thing that you should get, and I think that is a better value, is the Spartan Edition. The Spartan Edition gives you 2.5 times more than what's in the Recon Edition for 100 euros, while the Recon Edition costs 60 euros. And this being a full-fledged product, everything looks exactly the same. But the specifications of what you get, very small compared to the Spartan Edition. That should probably pop up somewhere here. But for what you get in the Spartan Edition, I think it's a better deal. The game is actually designed for 4-on-4 fire teams from what it looks like. I don't know that exactly because I don't have the Spartan Edition to compare it to. But the thing that stood out to me really is the playtime. This is a very quick, fast-paced game, and I think that's why I like it, because it doesn't drag on for hours like Shatterpoint or like Legion or 40K or any of those other games. That being said, I'm probably not going to get the Spartan Edition. If my friend gets it and he's kind enough to let me borrow it, I'll do a comparison then. So let's get to what's cool about this. One of the best things that I've ever seen come out for a how to play tutorial is this mat. This is actually the other side of the primary game mat that comes with the game. It's an 8x8 standard grid with 3-inch cubes. First time or learn how to play side, you have a grid of 5x5, so 25 spaces. These outlines here are for where you're going to place your buildings and your terrain. You have your starting characters here with reference cards on what they do for both sides. You have your scenario setup, some keywords, how your actions work, your assault modifiers, basically what's going to roll extra dice, and some special ability things. This is a very quick system for setup. Place your buildings exactly where they go. Movement in the game is fairly straightforward. Your move value, and you can move in any direction. The game doesn't really care about vertical limits. So you move one space, it's one cube. This cube is also important for height. This is 1 cube tall. As far as line of sight goes, you're going to go from model to model, and as long as they can see each other, you have line of sight. The only difference comes down to modifiers. If you have a 100% clear view, then you're going to get some bonus dice for attack. Same as if you are shooting below versus above, you'll get extra dice. The weird thing is there's not a lot of defensive modifiers in this game. The only defensive modifier is an action called crouch, and it's the only one that actually gives you an extra die for defense. And we'll get to that. But I really like this learn how to play system. There are a few issues I have with it because keywords on some of the weapons aren't covered on all of this. It also becomes an issue later when you're playing bigger games because for some reason they didn't make a reference card for keywords, they put them in the middle of the manual. But the game works pretty much like that. It's a back and forth until somebody wins. And depending on the game modes you play, you can have deathmatch, capture the flag. There's 5 different game modes that I'll show you later. The terrain for this is very, very well made. This is some of the better cardboard terrain I've seen. It is reversible, which is really nice. And one of the features that they've added, which I appreciate greatly, is that the tabs interlock alternate. It helps keep it very rigid, and it's going to make it last longer. Having the option to switch around terrain That's actually a nice feature. Most companies don't do that. They would just left it one-sided. As far as the minis go, the quality of the minis is actually pretty decent. It is a very good plastic. They're about, I believe, 2 inches tall with an 1.5 inch base. And each of the minis have a pose and a weapon that's going to match their cards. You will get 2 sets of 4 different units, which is pretty much the Brawler, the Zediva, the Deadeye, and the Mark 7 Spartan. And that's what comes in the Recon Edition. The Spartan Edition, you're actually going to get 16 of the Spartans and 4 of the Covenant, but I don't know their details. It has a unique X-Factor system that uses what's called command dice, and you're going to roll those at the beginning of the round. You're going to do your actions, and your actions are limited to either 2 short actions or 1 long action. And then you go back and forth until everyone's activated. You do your end of round check, and then you go back to rolling command dice and repeat as needed. It's pretty straightforward. This is everything that comes in the Recon Edition core box. We have this tray, and it fits pretty well. Its only gripe I have is that the cardboard buildings obviously are not going to fit properly. You got to tear them down all the time. But everything does fit. We have an advert for Dead Zone, which looks like NECA run them to me, but I also believe that this is exactly what the Halo game is based off of. There's also an advert for Kings of War. I've never played this, but Jason's really interested in it, so we might try that later. Comes with this handy dandy how to build your cardboard buildings manual. The backside for the Recon Edition shows this building, but it doesn't come in the Recon Edition, so I believe this is the same manual for the Spartan Edition. And then we have our rulebook. Not having your keywords or a flow sheet on the back of your book is kind of odd to me, and not having enough reference cards for it. But having your keywords right in the middle of the book is pretty annoying, especially since you're going to have to reference them and they're going to want you to memorize all that stuff. Here we have some scenario setups, the items, weapons, playing your first game scenario. So we have Slayer, which is deathmatch. We have Oddball, which is pick up this thingy. I don't remember playing it in Halo, but everyone tells me it's in there. Capture the flag, of course, a standalone. Strongholds, grab VP tokens, run them back to your base. And then Stockpile, grab things and hold them at your base. And then some advanced rules, recon table, and the fire team building rules. There is an add-on, and I don't know if it comes with the Spartan Edition also, but you can build a better customized fire team by points. This is more of a draft system. I'm not too happy with how it works, especially with the Recon Edition. There's just not enough stuff. All your actions, not having a good reference card for this, it's all in the book. So it wants you to memorize everything, how your command dice work. And it's fairly easy. It's just having that reference back and forth in the book just to make double check and make sure, and not having, you know, an actual index. Well, you have a table of contents, but not having a quick index kind of sucks. But the game is fairly easy to play, and it's quick. And that's what I like about it. We do get 10 weapon upgrades, or not upgrades, but power-ups that you pick up on the field. You'll have these weapon tokens that you'll place out, and depending on the game mode, you can run and pick up a weapon. You can only have one extra weapon. This cutout on the side of the card where it fits. If you want to pick up another weapon, you're going to have to drop your other weapon on the battlefield. It's kind of like the video game, except you don't get two. Instead, you will have your fixed weapons that you're always going to have on you. For this, we have the Deadeye. Every Spartan 2 I've noticed in this set comes with a melee combat knife, but their ranged weapon is all different. And I'll get to how all these effects work. The variation of terrain, it's pretty creative. And the way you can organize it is any way you want, and I do like that. I think it's a awesome system to actually put good cardboard terrain in, especially I was not expecting the containers or the guard tower. And again, these are all reversible, so good job on that. The mat is a heavy cardstock, and I think it does a pretty good job. There is neoprene mats, but the game is a small tactics skirmish game. And honestly, I think having 8 characters on this board, well, 16 if you play the Spartan edition, is going to be a little crowded. But our 4 sets of minis for red and blue, they're both the same. I believe this is the Mark 7 Spartan. I believe this is the Deadeye. Here's your Brawler with the shotgun. And then here's your Zvezda, or Zed is your Scout. But your line of sight, like I said, it's pretty simple to do. Just, if they can see each other, so from here to here, it's an obstructed shot, you're going to lose all your bonus modifiers. Same goes for here. Now, if you're here, it's a little bit different because you're not obstructed now because you have full sight to them, but they don't have full sight to you. It's a quick and fast system. It does bring up some interesting thoughts. Barriers like this where you can see through it. How does this work? Well, that's part of a gentleman's agreement before you guys get into it. It comes with this reference card, which isn't super helpful. You should already know what these do if you're going to look up this. Especially the item tokens, it doesn't help. You gotta have to reference the book. Just kind of shows you the iconography. There is this one special order card, and this is a special ability that's, I believe, unique to the Spartans. And it can only be activated by this symbol on your command dice. And I will get to how that works. But I think they should have made 2 copies of reference cards and better reference cards. Again, I don't know how nitpicky I'm being about it, but it's kind of a pain to flip the book all the time. The cardboard tokens are a decent thickness. They're roughly 3 millimeters, which is what this is. They don't peel, and they're pretty durable. The cardboard is not cheap. It's actually pretty stiff. There is a weird oddball thing with the damage markers. So they're 1 and 2, but if I go to a 2, it goes to a 3. It seems kind of weird not to go to a 3 to a 4, but none of the Spartans have more than 4 health. You have your shield tokens. They do regenerate at the end of the round. It's a neat system, but also prolongs the game. Tokens you're going to be using a lot are these crouch and suppress markers. You have some respawn tokens, and these are used for different game modes. Well, all the game modes. And these are the accessory tokens for the maps for certain scenarios. You get a good amount of stuff in this. As far as how the game plays, Jason referred to this as my first tabletop. And I keep on considering this more of a board game because of this cube measurement system. It's what makes the game extremely fast. Line of sight is easy to calculate and figure out. A lot of it's just kind of some common sense, and I hate using that term because what's that really mean? But your whole system is based off D8s. There's also exploding dice. They call them headshot. If you roll an 8, you get to roll another die into that after that. So for every 8 you get to roll, and if you roll another 8, you keep on going. Eventually you should succeed or stop and they'll die. But I do like that system because of how these guys are set up. As far as component quality, everything is pretty good. I mean, these are just plain D8s. There's nothing really special about it. There is a dice pack you can buy that gives you 6 black D8s with white lettering or white numbering. But whatever, D8s are D8s. The only thing that seems to be unique is the symbols of these command dice, which are D6s. I don't really feel like you need more than 3 on each, but that's just because of certain abilities. You always get 2 command dice, but if you take the scout, I believe, or the commander, the character as tactician, you get an extra die. And another thing that's really neat is how these work. But with line of sight, movement, just move one time. And the rule in the squares is that max of 4, which, look at that, 4 fit perfectly in the 3x3 square. It's a very streamlined, simple system, and I actually think it's good because of it. I don't like adding a lot of weird modifiers and taking and then going back and forth, especially with the 40k nonsense. Okay, how do these character cards work? Here for the Spartan Deadeye is going to be the example. Under the title, you're going to have their abilities, which is Energy Shield, means they get 2 Energy Shields. Their Fast Transition, which is a special ability they get. Again, wish they had a reference card instead of looking at the keywords. SP is your speed. The 2 is a short action. It is your normal advance action, while the 3, that dash that separates it, becomes a long action called sprint. RA is range attack. You need to roll 3 or more for a successful hit. FI is fight. So for melee, you need to roll 5 or more to hit. SV is basically your save. That's your defense value. Roll 5 or more to remove. AR is your armor. Armor is an interesting system with the shields. Every hit you take is going to go to your shields first. If you have no shields, then it's going to go against your armor. And this comes down to weapons. If you notice weapon type and you see that line that says AP, AP2, that means it's going to ignore the armor value of that number. So knives, remove armor value. But this DMR is terrible. It doesn't have AP. But it does have a bunch of extra cool abilities. Your HP is your health, 4 health. If you take 4 or more wounds, you're Kaputski. And then we have our weapon types. As I said earlier, close combat, we have a combat knife. Range, CC, close combat, same square. AP, armor piercing value. Keywords, ESD1. All the knives have that ability, and that takes away an extra shield on the initial hit. If you succeed, have more successes than your opponent. And then we have our range weapon, the weapon name, the range, how many cubes away you can target. If it has an AP value, this one doesn't. And then keywords, lethal and optics. Lethal does extra damage on top of your normal damage. For whatever hits you get through, add 1. And I believe optics adds 1 to your die value. All the characters are different. They have different values, except of course, 2 Deadeyes versus each other. You'll notice this little cutout right here. That's for your shield token. I don't know why they didn't put room for 2, but go figure. And then here's your pickup slot. On the back, there is some lore if you care about that stuff. I don't. Here we have this special order called Snapshot. I don't really like this ability. I think it's kind of janky the way it works. And it's not exactly what snap shooting is, but whatever. Honestly, it's never helped me, and getting a bunch of command dice that when you roll 3 of these, and you're kind of like, well, this ability only works if they enter my cube. This ability kind of sucks. I'd rather have an advancement, an extra die, something. As far as your extra weapon guns you can pick up, we have the range 4, armor piercing, and a bunch of keywords, and it's really annoying. So, attacking and defending. You're always going to get 3 dice. If you have clear line of sight to a target that you're attacking, you'll get 2 more dice. If you're crouching, you'll get another die. Now, these are all bonuses for attacking. What happens with the whole defending stuff? Well, if you don't have clear line of sight, you're going to lose 2 dice. If you're not crouching, you're not going to get a die. So, again, you're really subtracting modifiers by playing tactically. The command dice. This is the system I actually enjoyed the most in this game. I like this system a lot because it's kind of that weird X factor of tactics. And it's really important because of how the tactics work in this game. You cannot repeat actions in this game unless they're basically command dice or free actions. The command dice facings, we have model, +1 die, advance, shoot, assault, and special order. This +1 model is an activation, so you usually activate one model at a time, going back and forth. This allows you to move two models at one time. Allows you to do some cool stuff, or activate two models, I should say. +1 die, add a die to defense or attack. This advance with a 1 means move one space for free. Shoot means ranged attack. Assault is a melee attack. This is actually a long action. And it's very wonky. Assault does really crazy stuff, and we kind of got into the weird John Wick container fight with the old guy back and forth until one of us finally succeeded and killed the other guy. And then we have Special Order, which I've stated earlier. I don't really like that ability. I rather have extra good free actions. Getting to shoot as a regular action, spend a command die to get another shot off, to actually getting 2 attacks. It's really cool. It's also kind of broken at times because the way these work, it's RNG. But you can spend as many of these as you want. So you can make one guy do a lot of crazy stuff if need be. Of course, you'll lose the options spread around, but at the end of the round, they will get discarded and re-rolled. Unless you have Tactician, which is an ability that lets you keep dice and get more dice. It's a neat system. On the other side of the card, here's your actions. Seems kind of weird that Assault is a long action. On the plus side, and it's one of those things that people would forget, if you move into a space with an opponent's character, you get to do a free assault action. If you sprint and run into a space, yeah, it can stab them at the same time. Or if you just advance with a regular move. Or if you shoot in advance. You cannot mix short and long actions. It's kind of a balancing mechanic. I'm not sure. As far as how strong Assault is, it's really not that strong with the combat knife unless your weapon's lacking armor piercing. As I've stated, you roll dice, you compare numbers to stats, and it's usually 3 on 3. So here we're probably going to have 2 hits with an exploding die. We get an extra die, which is a 2, so that's a failure. And usually defense is a 5, so we block 1 hit, 2 hits will go through. Shields first. If it's a dagger, it's going to hit 1 shield, it's going to remove a shield, and then everything goes through armor, and then it's just AP save. That's pretty much the gist of the game. I like it, but I'm also not really big into tabletop games, and it's mainly because I don't ever feel a sense of progression or anything out of these. And I know it's a little bit weird for me to compare it because I play a lot of Euros, but this game doesn't give you as many options as I really like. The customization is very limited. Granted, I haven't seen the war book. The game modes are pretty much races, and the RNG of dice for me, it's like, why are there a million D6s? What is all this nonsense? This is a very streamlined game. It plays like a tabletop, or it plays like a board game compared to a tabletop. And I like that about the game. The system is better than, I would say, Legion, especially since I did not like Legion. It's way easier than 40K's system, and I'm going from 3rd edition to whatever it is now, because every time I see it, it's like, why are there a million D6s? What is all this nonsense? This is a very streamlined game. It plays like a tabletop, or it plays like a board game compared to a tabletop. And I like that about the game. As far as how invested I'm in it, it's hard to say. If you guys are really interested in this, and if enough people encourage me, maybe I'll pick up the Spartan edition, like I said, but hopefully I can borrow it. As what I would rate Recon edition, I wouldn't buy Recon edition unless you're really like that hard up for cash. I would get the Spartan edition. Right now the reprint isn't going to happen or ship out till March, which is, you know, a good bit away, but it's not that bad. I don't know how much the shipping is going to cost from Europe. Euros, I mean, those prices change every day. Conversions depending on your currency, so that's up to you to figure the value of that. But Recon Edition, it's a way better deal than usually Fantasy Flight's starter sets. You get so much out of it. The terrain is good, the minis are good. Pretty much everything is actually very well made, and it's worth the price. Even the mat, it's not a cheap paper mat. It's actually thick cardstock, which, again, it's a good mat. It's nowhere as nice as neoprene, but so what? For 60 euros, so I guess $80, I don't know. I think it's a good deal. But Spartan Edition for, you know, the fact that you're getting more than double is kind of the argument here I'm really having the problem with. Getting 20 miniatures, I think double the terrain, some weird plastic markers, I think they're flags, I can't remember, but I'll pop them up somewhere. I think you're getting a better deal. If you know someone with the Flashpoint game and you really like Halo, try it out before you take my word and jump on the Spartan Edition. It's a quick, fun tactical game. It's not time consuming and it's easy to learn. But definitely make sure you understand all the keywords in here because of the reference cards being garbage. It's fairly simple and fast to set up too. It's just a very straightforward game. I consider this basically like fast food. If I don't want to have a 7-course meal, but I want something that's quick and satisfying, Flashpoint definitely, you know, holds that value. And I know that's depending on what fast food franchise you like. So just take one that's not overpriced and it's decent for what it is. I like it, but it's not something I look forward to a lot of the times. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to prefer this over actual like home cooking. But the game is a well-suited adjustment for that. I'm going to say try before you buy, but if you like how this works, or if you want to get into tactical games and you want an IP or something that's familiar, Halo definitely fills that role. I'm still doing the 2024 giveaway. You don't have to subscribe to win, but you should definitely check out that video if you want to win some free stuff. Other than that, thank you for watching, take care of yourselves, and GG's.